Discourse and the sentence. Two different kinds of language as potential objects of study. So we have two types of language for study, discourse analysis. One abstracted to teach a language or to study how the rules of language work. So we generally have one type of language which is meant to teach any language to the language learners, and also to teach them the rules of grammar of that language. Another which has been used to communicate something and is felt to be coherent. That is the language which we actually use in an interaction, in a process of communication. So the later kind of language for communication is called discourse. So the language that we use in communication is called discourse, language for discourse. The search for what gives discourse coherence is discourse analysis. So when we search the coherence in the language, we are actually in the process of analyzing the discourse. Stretch of language. So whatever we speak or whatever type of language that we have in any communication interaction, or we have used it for writing books, we can take a sentence from a book of grammar and use it with the people who are native to the language and can get the answer. And similarly, we can take up any stretch, any sentence from a conversation and translate it in any language class. So we can use these two types for both the purposes. For example, John considers the analyst a lunatic. Which of you people is the fish? Please don't throw me on the floor. So if you look at these sentences, so the first sentence and the third sentence, they are grammatically correct and quite understandable. But what about which of you people is the fish? Obviously, it's very difficult to understand in the first place. But just imagine that the speaker of the sentence or the writer of the sentence was with his friend in a restaurant, and the waiter in the restaurant asks the company that which of you people is the fish. So it's quite understandable. Similarly, cross this 1846. So this stretch can be understood only when you have the whole conversation and you can find coherence in that. So with the help of coherence in a conversation, you will be able to understand even this phrase. So sentence 1 or 3 are used or invented. The two approaches are not mutually exclusive. You can use them for each other. Discourse may be composed of well-formed sentences, but it does not have to be, right? So when we have discourse, it may be well-formed sentences, grammatically correct sentences, and sometimes it's not necessary that sentence be grammatically correct. It can have grammatical mistakes in it. So in discourse, we may find sentences which have grammatical mistakes in them. We thought it was right to come to a decision when I next met them last night. So this was the sentence said by one of the British politician, Geoffrey Howe. And this sentence, so far as this sentence is meant for discourse analysis, there is no problem with it. But if this sentence is given to any class teacher to mark, the class teacher, he or she will underline the whole sentence. So discourse treats the rules of grammar as a source, conforming to them when it needs to, but departing from them, it does not. So when the analyst needs them, he uses these rules, but when he doesn't need them, he departs from the rules and try to concentrate on the discourse. Discourse can be anything from a grunt or a single expletive up to the war and peace. So discourse is not a complete sentence always. It can be simple grunt or simple one phrase, two phrase, one clause, half the clause, or it can be the whole novel like War and Peace, a big novel by Tolstoy. What matters is not its conformity to rules, but the fact that it communicates and is recognized by its receivers as coherent. So the most important thing of a discourse is not it's being grammatically correct, but it's being coherent. It's being understandable to the receiver, to the hearer. That is the most important thing. So there is a degree of subjectivity in identifying a stretch of language as discourse. So whenever we listen to sentence, we have meaning within them. We interpret them subjectively, right? And but despite the fact discourse is used more in groups than in individuals.